sure I forgot something. I always forget something. Good morning. I always say this, I feel like, good morning. Hello everybody, welcome back. My name is Marylin Rossano. Stool, I didn't put the brakes on it. Anyway, it's all right, we'll carry on. My name is Marylin Rossano from Rossano's Casa. And today I'm actually filming two recipes. This one was totally impromptu, but I thought, you know what? I've got to make this loaf. And I bang on about this on Instagram. If you don't follow me on Instagram, please do, because I always share this literally pretty much every week. And it's my banana bread. It's very, very easy, very simple. I make this literally every week. And if it's not the exact recipe, it's a variation of it, which I am going to do a variation of it. It's delicious. I literally have the recipe blue tacked to my little kitchen wall section here, just behind the fridge, because I feel like I've sort of memorized the ingredients, but I just keep it on there because I make it every week and I don't want to print it off. So if you don't know, all my recipes on the website have a little print button, which you can then print, screenshot the PDF to reference to. I like hard copy recipes. I feel like constantly going to my phone, and usually I have something, whether it's watching someone else's YouTube stuff or, you know, a podcast. I don't want to be touching my phone when I'm cooking, especially someone else's recipe, and my own for that fact, because I forget the measurements. I like to have that. So I thought of you guys and myself when I designed the website. Anyway, I'm going to flip the camera around. Very simple recipe. Look, we can overcomplicate baking and these kind of recipes by getting hand beaters out and a stand mixer. To be honest with you, I'm going to show you how I do all of this in one bowl. It's a one bowl baking recipe. I'm going to give you my recipe. I will give you little pointers, substitutions, tips, different methods, some time schedule things if you're doing cupcakes versus a loaf throughout this episode. So even though I'm going to try and make it a really quick one, this intro is already long, but I know you're going to love it. And I know you probably have your own banana bread recipe. Maybe you'd like to compare it to mine. Maybe you'd like to implement a little tip or trick or ingredient that you don't do to yours, and it makes your day. So anyway, let's flip the camera around. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode or any of my episodes on YouTube. It means the world. It's a little free gesture that you can do for myself and for yourself, so that you can also be notified, informed when you jump on YouTube when a new episode's out. And I send weekly newsletter reminders of them with links. So if you want to subscribe, you can do so on my website. Anyway, flip the camera around and let's get baking. I've preheated the oven and I'm loving my new oven. Pretty sure 170 degrees Celsius, but we'll go through that in a minute. Okay. Thought it'd be easier to do it this way. I've got one large mixing bowl. We have a standard bread tin. Now, this is just like a small size. I'll put the measurements in the video when I edit. I think on the recipe on the blog, I use a bigger loaf. You can, but I find this loaf plenty. Otherwise, you can turn this into cupcakes. So you could just get your little cupcake tin and put some patties in there. Brown sugar. I love to use brown sugar. No caster sugar here. I just find that brown sugar and banana are like a match made in heaven. It's my personal opinion. We've got 2 eggs, room temperature. Reason why we do have them at room temp, because they're easier to whisk and mix. And that's that. Baking powder as a rising agent, plain flour, and I'm using almond meal. So almond meal, I've done this recipe before as a gluten-free loaf, just for a friend who was gluten intolerant. You could do, so this is where I'm going to give you some pointers. I like to use half plain and half almond. It gives that nice, shall we say, moistness to the loaf. You could do all plain. That is completely fine. You could do half almond meal and half rice flour if you want to make it gluten-free, or you could just use gluten-free flour. So I've given you lots of options. You don't need to change the amount. We're doing 1 cup to 1 cup in this recipe, so you would do the exact same for any other flour. So if you're doing all plain, with 2 cups. If you're doing half plain, half almond, 1 and 1. If you're doing half almond, half rice, do 1 and 1. So the ratio stays the same is what I'm trying to get to with this recipe, and your flours. So we've got baking powder. I'm just going to use, I've got a bunch of these cooking chocolate blocks, can't even talk. So I'm going to chop this up into chunks. You could use choc chips, you could leave it out, you could melt it and add a swirl. Endless options. There's actually 2 recipes on my website. I'll link them below. One that has like a choc swirl that I use caramel purely because I was using up Easter leftover chocolate. But generally speaking, I leave it out. That's my generally speaking. But today I'm feeling generous. I'm feeling like a cool mum that gives her kids chocolate. 3 bananas. They're ripe. I usually like them a bit ripe, a bit more brown than this, but these will do. You can use 2 large bananas. I've used 4 small, to be honest with you. This is pretty flexible. But generally speaking, 3 medium. Vanilla bean paste. Did I tell you that I love this size from Costco? Good value for money. Ground cinnamon. You could add some cardamom. You could add some mixed spice. You could leave it all out. I'm using rice bran oil, a neutral oil. You could use melted butter, but generally speaking, I use oil because I can't be bothered to melt the butter, if you want my honest opinion. This is, to me, a one-bowl wonder. I want it quick. I want it easy. I don't want to melt butter. I mean, you could put the butter in there, melt. I can't be bothered. I just use oil, a neutral oil. Or if you want olive oil, you could use extra light olive oil. I don't know. That's it, guys. So let's get baking. I just want to show you. This is the side of my fridge and kitchen wall. This is where, look, it's blue tacked to the wall. That's how much I use it. So you can print these recipes off. This is a banana and chocolate swirl bread, cake, loaf, whatever you want to call it. And the ingredients are basically the same. Anyway, just want to show you that. It lives there. Lives there permanently. All right, I've half mashed the bananas. I'm going to add in my eggs at this point, and I'm going to mash the rest of the bananas in with the eggs because it kind of makes it a bit more gooey, shall we say. So I'll mash this up. I'm going to go in with a teaspoon of vanilla bean paste. Now, guys know me by now, I don't really measure out vanilla bean. So you just want to mash the banana. You don't have to be, it doesn't have to be perfect, but we don't really want big chunks in there. I mean, you can. It's no real rule. So I'm going to just switch that over. Get this mixer. Let's go in with half a cup of the oil or melted butter. If you're melting butter, just make sure that it's sort of cooled down a bit before you add in the eggs. Otherwise, you can have scrambled eggs. Do you like this little, I think it's like a Dutch whisk? I'm not really sure, I'm sorry, but I usually use it for my sourdough. And I just like the way that it mixes everything through, usually for bread. I use it for like pancakes. It's a better mix. I feel like the whisk, sometimes the chunks of the banana get stuck in the whisk and I'm picking it out. Anyway, irrelevant chit chat about I feel like I'm an info ad that just comes on to talk about my gadgets, but I know that a lot of you love that. Let's go in with our brown sugar. This is how I'm measuring it out. Not real, half a cup as well. I mean, guys, this. I know baking is generally all about precise measurements. This is a no fuss kind of baking recipe. Let's go in with a teaspoon of ground cinnamon. Again, if you want to add mixed spice, you could do so. You want to add cardamom, even better. It tastes delicious. I'm just going to give this a little bit of a mix, and then I'm going to go in with my flours, my salt, and we'll add the chocolate towards the end. So just mix it up. There are a little bit of chunks. I want to just break up the chunks of brown sugar. Chunks of banana are okay. I feel like chunks of brown sugar, yeah, not so much. You could use hand beaters at this point, definitely. I'm just being lazy, to be quite honest. I'm being bloody lazy. I can't be bothered. Part of me is like wanting to get the beaters out, to get those chunks out, but to be honest, this is just, we're not baking for the masses here. We're baking for kids, ourselves, afternoon tea. It'll do. The job will be fine and delicious. Right, let's go in with a cup of flour. 1 cup. You could, look, I'm just roughly measuring, as you can see, not even sifting it. So 1 cup of flour, 1 cup of almond meal. I'm going to go 2 teaspoons of baking powder. So I've got, I love this little tool. I'm trying to get this all in the camera. Hold on. Let's shuffle this around. The joys of a small kitchen space. 1, 2. This will help it rise. 2. Alrighty. Going with a pinch of salt. Just using Himalayan cooking, always cooking salt, no table salt here. So let's slowly bring that together. So if you are a mum or a dad making these for your kiddos for school and your school has nut allergies, obviously leave the almond meal out. Just use all plain flour or the other substitutes that I suggested. So I'm not going to over mix it. It's literally just incorporated. I'm actually going to chop up some choc chunks. So let's do that and we'll add it into the mix and pour it into the bread tin. I'm not going to use the whole block initially, even though my kids will be like, put it all in. Actually, let us eat it all. And I'm just going to roughly, so if you have leftover chocolate from like Easter, birthdays, I mean Ferrero Rocher would taste amazing in this, you could just use it up. It doesn't have to be necessarily cooking chocolate. I just look in your pantry, look in your freezer. So it's really annoying. I'll chop this up and come back. But point of the story is use what you got. Be creative. I'm just giving suggestions. I've done this version before. I've melted the chocolate and added it as a swirl. I've added choc chips. I've left it out. I've added raspberry. Like, honestly, this is pretty much like a base recipe. So let's add that in. I think I will add the whole block. Mama's feeling a bit generous today to the kiddos. Okay, let's just add the rest of that in. Nothing to waste. Of course, my countertop, my bench top is having more. And just give it a mix until incorporated. Look at that. The kids are going to love it. So at this point, I'm going to go spray and line my bread tin. I am going to make it into a loaf. If you are cooking it a loaf, generally takes about 50 minutes at 170 in the oven. If you're going to put these into little cupcake patties, fill it up just to the rim. Is that what they call it? To the rim of the cupcake mold. And they should only take 30 minutes in the oven. So generally half the time. I would then take it out, just put a skewer through it and see if it's done. All right, let's pour this bad boy into the tin. And I'm just cutting some baking paper. So I've just sprayed the tin. Oh my gosh, this is a really bad cut. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I've sprayed it with a little bit of rice bran oil. You guys know my little oil spray button. Let us just line it like that. Make sure this part is oiled well. Let's pour this bad boy mix into the tin. I like to use a silicone spatula to get every drop. Now, you could put banana pieces, like slices, along the bottom or along the top. You could add some maple syrup. You could add some, is it demerara? Apologies, I don't know how it's said. Demerara sugar over the top. I'm not adding any more sugar. Okay, kids are lucky enough to get the chocolate. I know some of you are like, ew, her fingers. Baking for my kids, guys. It's fine. Give that a little tap. Oh, wobble jiggle. Okay. And into the oven she goes. I put a baking tray under this just in case it splatters. Doesn't, but less cleaning of my oven shelves. So I'm going to put this in 170, 50 minutes, and let's see how it comes out. Let's get the bread out. Okay, we're fogging up. All right, I've given her a little bit of a let's have a look. Clean again. So this part had a little bit more chocolate, but it is done. 50 minutes. Leave it to cool down for about 10 or so minutes in here, and then I'll transfer it to a wired rack and we'll cut it up and I'll show you what it looks like in the middle. All right, guys, here it is. cooled down slightly. Let's take it out of the tin. Perfect. That is it. Clean tin, everybody. And let's cut a piece. I'm going to show you how it's still quite warm. But we all know that I'm a desperado. I'm going to bring it up nice and close. Look at that. How gorgeous. Look at that. It's nice and soft. It's well cooked. It's just perfect. Anyway, I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoy this episode. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share. I will link up the recipe in the show notes. I'll link them up to both the banana bread recipe. So one's got the caramel swirl, the chocolate swirl, and one's a regular. But I hope that it has inspired you to make my version. If you perhaps have your recipe and it is the best and you're not changing anything, maybe it has inspired you to add or change an ingredient here and there, and to perfect your one even more. And that's all that I intend with my recipes. I love hearing your versions, your tweaks, your changes, your little add-ons. Like, yeah, you know, my girlfriend is a follower as well, and she made the chicken teriyaki, but she swapped the chicken for fish. I mean, it seems very obvious, but sometimes we just don't think of this stuff, and it just makes you go, oh, that is fabulous. And that's what I intend on inspiring on this show. Anyway, until next time, I hope you enjoy my banana bread / Houdini, which another follower calls it, because it vanishes in 24 hours. I'm sure my kids are going to come through the door in an hour and inhale this. And I'll be on here at the tail end of the week baking something else for them. Anyway, until next week, bye.